Good evening. Welcome to the Free Spirit Ministries Worship Center, host of tonight's debate for the City Council seat in the City of South Fulton, District 7. I'm Pastor Dale Foster. We are glad that you are here, and we welcome all of these candidates. Thank you so much for being here. Those of you who are online, we welcome you as well. Let's open with a word of prayer. Gracious God, we're thankful for your bountiful blessings that you've given to us this day. We thank you for your grace and for your mercy, and for each of these candidates. We thank you for them availing themselves to be servants for the betterment of our community and for your glory. In Jesus' name, amen. Amen. Before we introduce our moderator for the evening, I want to start with some housekeeping for those of you who are here in the sanctuary. Our facility is located through this door on my left and your right, which will lead you to the fellowship hall. Bear to the right, and you will find the facilities. You were given index cards when you came in. If you did not get an index card and you want to ask a question, please hold your hand up. We'll get an index card to you, and we will get the index card over to our moderator. We're streaming on a number of different platforms tonight, and we're glad to have you streaming with us. There will be questions that will also come from the chat box. Our monitor for tonight's debate is Ms. Kathy Adams, who brings a wealth of experience. Ms. Kathy Adams has been serving the community for more than 30 years. As a college student at Clark Atlanta University, she studied political science, and later at Phoenix University, from which she earned a dual master's degree in business management and business marketing. Ms. Adams is currently the Southern Regional Director of the National Federation of Democratic Women, past state president of the Georgia Federation of Democratic Women, former chair of Delta Airlines Information Technology and Learning Council, Career Council, former Fulton County Democratic Party post seat holder, just to name a few. I'll cut it off right there so we can get to the debate. Kathy believes in a broad-based community engagement and that the legislative process is critical to ensuring Georgia's citizens experience growth and positive change. Please help me welcome our moderator for this evening, Ms. Kathy Adams.
Pastor, thank you so much. And thank you to the church family for extending the invitation to me to join you this evening. It is my pleasure to serve as moderator, and as the pastor said, I do bring a wealth of experience. I'm taking off my partisan hat this evening. While I am the Southern Regional Director for the National Federation of Democratic Women, over 12 states, I am in a nonpartisan role this evening. So I will not slant this in a partisan direction. So I'm going to give each candidate a fair opportunity to respond to the questions. So before I get started, I want to go through some housekeeping rules. And want to share with you, I want all the candidates to listen for the sound of the bell. And when the time is up, the timekeeper will indicate that by holding up a sign. And do we have a bell, or we're just going to hold up a sign?
Her phone will go off.
Okay.
When it's the end of the time, but she'll hold up the sign for 30 seconds and then 10 seconds.
So you'll get a countdown on the time. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to give your opening statement. And then you have 2 minutes for your closing statement. And then the moderator, I will ask the questions as moderator point of privilege in the order that I choose. Now, each candidate won't have the same question, but you will have the same number of questions. So you have to pay attention. And I'm not one to repeat questions over and over and over, because then what you do is you take away time from the forum. So you got to pay attention. So each candidate will have 1.5 minutes to respond to each question. And then all of the candidates, like I said, will receive the same number of questions throughout the forum. If another candidate's name is called out, that candidate has 30 seconds for rebuttal. And the timekeeper, again, at the countdown, will give you a 30-second warning, then a 10-second warning, and then I will ask you to stop. You don't stop when we cut your microphone off. So we are streaming live, and as the pastor said, on a number of different platforms, so we will take questions via chat. We do have some questions here to go ahead and get us started. We do ask that the audience, if you do have some questions, we do have some people that we call them runners that are in the audience that will pass out index cards and pins. And so if you have a question, you have an aha moment, and you want to ask a question, they will get those cards to me, and I'll be sure to share the information. And then what we're asking also is, let's be fair to each of the candidates. Let's not interrupt one another throughout the forum for the evening. And then so what I'd like to do now is just say, hey, welcome to the District 7 Candidate Forum. What we have here are 4 qualified candidates. They've qualified to run for the city council seat, for this vacant seat. This is a special election. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the floor over to each of the candidates. And we're going to go in order by last name in alphabetical order, make it fair. And so I'm going to allow each of the candidates 2 minutes to tell us a little bit about themselves. Platform, stump speech, whatever it is you want the people to know, even while you're running. So I'm going to start with Mario Clark. Mr. Clark.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. How's everyone doing tonight? All right, good. We have a good crowd, and I definitely love this. Everybody's engaged in the process. My name is Mario Clark. I am a resident of South Fulton for over 23 years. I've been a homeowner in South Fulton for over 23 years. I graduated from D.M. Thero High School in 1995 and from Howard University in 1999 with degrees in political science and computer science. I've been working in cybersecurity for the past 23 years, and I got into this race because it's important that the citizens have a voice, and I'm looking to bring that voice back to the city of South Fulton, especially in District 7. I have a platform that's based on 3 pillars. That is safety, stability, and innovation. With safety, we definitely understand that our streets, our street lights, and as well as our thoroughfares are definitely crowded and congested. We have accidents that happen every day. We also have issues that are happening in terms of people being able to go along our streets and be safe in our streets. And the thing is, we don't have enough street lights. We don't have enough street signs. We don't have enough speed bumps. There's money to get these things done. And the thing is, we need to be able to tap into those funds so that every community can be safe. We need to protect our seniors as well as our young people. When I think about stability, that is one of the reasons why I'm running for this seat. We've had a vacancy in this seat since March, as I'm sure everybody knows. So what I want to do is bring a stable voice back to the citizens of South Fulton and offer my seat as the citizens' voice in South Fulton. Also, innovation. Like I said, I work in cybersecurity, and what I want to do is mirror innovation inside of the city, but we also have to build the infrastructure up to be able to do that. So what I want to do is build a comprehensive farmers market here in this city so we're able to feed ourselves in the city. And I also want to tap into the innovation from the warehouses and other, yes.
Time, thank you. Thank you. Mr. Drew Demand.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Thank you very much for having us here, Pastor. Thanks for moderating, Kathy. I'm Drew Demand, and it would be my deepest honor to be your council representative for District 7. I live just down the road here. You may have passed my place on the way in. My wife and kids and I moved down here 5 years ago, and we're very happy here. We also have a little farm, which you may have heard. I'm really big on farming. I believe that we can bring economic development in an unconventional way to our city through redeveloping our food system, meaning that we can grow food here in South Fulton on the wealth of agricultural land that exists not only in the 7th District but elsewhere, being pandemic proof, providing food for our citizens here, but also selling up in the city of Atlanta, provisioning restaurants and farmers markets. Like Mario said, we should have a farmers market here. We should have farmers markets throughout the city. So I'm really big on food, but we can also take that and build value into value-added products that we sell elsewhere in the city and around the world even. So there's a real economic development possibility in farming. But I'm also about public safety. I'm a community activist and organizer. You rode over the speed bumps down our street here that I organize with my neighbors to get the city to pay for and install. I've also stopped numerous warehouse projects just down the road here, and I continue to fight and organize with my community, and I would encourage y'all to do the same. I will be a voice for the people on city council, and I would ask you to vote for me because I will always work tirelessly for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Demand. Next, we'll have Linda Pritchett.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here today. Hey, Kathy. My name is Linda Pritchett, and I am your candidate for City Council in District 7. 5 years ago, I ran for this seat. I was part of a group of people that felt that we needed to become a city because we were having our local auction sales tax monies, which were about $2 million a month that were being held up. So we felt that it was important to have self-determination. The county was ignoring us. There were things that were not happening. Our quality of life was just diminishing, and we were being ignored. So I was part of the first 72 candidates who ran for this seat. I actually went into a runoff with Councilman Mark Baker, and now I'm very glad to announce that he supports me in this race. I also have the support of our Senator, Don Zella James. I have formerly been a state party committee member. I am a post seat holder for the Fulton County Democratic Party. And by profession, I am a certified paralegal. I have a degree in criminal justice. And I'm the only candidate here that can say that they've worked in the city, for the city, in the state, at the Capitol, worked in the legislative position, dealing with government affairs. So I'm a candidate that knows how to get things done, that has been familiar with the issues that are going on in our communities. We have issues right now where we can't get any quality retail on Old National Highway because of the way it looks, because of the aesthetics. We don't have anyone in this seat that cares enough, or in the city council that cares enough about trying to bring those type of improvements that we need for our city. I'm very passionate and very interested in these things. I've also served as the vice president of my homeowners association, and I want to make sure that we have smart growth now that we're a city, and that we are a safe city. My website is voteforlinda.com. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Alvin Reynolds.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alvin Reynolds, candidate for the City of South Fulton, District Seat number 7. I have been living in this District 7 area for a better 20 years, where I have been serving for that length of time. I was one of the initial persons that started the cityhood movement when there was little movement where people didn't want the city. There were some times where we sat down and we talked about what this city needed to break away from Fulton County. We had to have meetings with state representatives, state senators, and so forth. I was on that planning board, that planning commission, which was the South Fulton United group, where we paid for the feasibility study to get this city going. And as we moved along, there was another group developed by the name of South Fulton Now, and then the People's Campaign brought it all over. So again, I was a part of the planning commission. I was planning commissioner, vice chair, chairman, where we set up recommendations to city council, and I've been on that commission. I was a part of that commission for 3.5 years. So I'm well versed in development, and my platform is simple. It's the community, it's the city and our churches coming together to make a better South Fulton. We're about safe development. We're about balanced development. We're about safety, and we're about economic education for all. We care about our youth. We care about our seniors, our young adults, and we don't need anyone coming into this seat with on-the-job training. We need someone that's ready to hit the ground running, and I am that candidate, and I'm asking you for your support.
Thank you. So now you've just heard from the 4 candidates as to why they think they are the better candidate. And so tonight I want to reiterate that we're presenting this information to the voters, to all eligible voters that are out there, in a fair and nonpartisan format. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with the questions. And again, I'm going to ask these questions of the candidates in random order. And so I'm going to start with, and some of these questions have come in from the audience already, so just want to share that bit of information from you. So the first question is going to Mr. Clark. And so one of the questions that's come in is, what do you see as the major problems for the city of South Fulton in District 7?
Well, I have a lot of pet projects that are out there. As I said, I want to eliminate food insecurity. That's one of my biggest projects. But the thing that I think that's the most important is getting the people back involved into the process. What I wanted to do is create an application. I'm sure you guys are familiar with Nextdoor. I'm sure you guys are familiar when you have the city council meetings that you're not allowed to comment during those meetings. I want to create an application that allows pure communication from the citizens, and only the citizens of South Fulton, where they can voice their opinion and directly to the council and directly to other citizens on the issues. So if there's an issue that comes up on the ballot that people are thinking about and the council has to vote on, you guys need to have an open discussion on those issues. So what I want to do is create an application in order for you guys to be able to share your opinions in a closed loop format with constant security, so that your comments and the comments that you send directly to the council, there's a two-way way that you can do that. You can send them directly to the council, and you can make those comments private, or you can make those comments public. We don't have that type of application right now, and I think that that would be so important to eliminate apathy in voting and apathy in the process. You guys feel disenfranchised because your voice has been silenced. I want to change that.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So next, I'm going to move on to the next question. It says, I live in the Oakley industrial area, and we have increased crime in our area in South Fulton. And I want to ask the candidates if they were aware, and what do they plan to do about the crime, and which affects our communities and the homeowners' value. So I'm going to ask Mr. DeMann.
All right, great question. We all, of course, need to feel safe in our communities and know that we're safe unequivocally. You know, the wave of crime sort of rose out of the pandemic. And the reasons for that are known and also unknown. But whatever the causes are, they tend to be centered on economic insecurity. And so when people are faced with economic insecurity, they have lost their job. They don't have a job to begin with. They may be slipping through the cracks in the system because they faced extreme difficulty in school to begin with, very little opportunity, not a lot of options in their lives, and of course, the fragmentation of our society that's come here in the early 21st century. And I think that it's time that we looked at crime as a kind of disease that arises out of things that we can actually do something about. And so fighting crime should start with preventing crime, which should start with looking at the causes of crime. And so to me, fighting crime and keeping people safe begins by giving people opportunity and making sure their needs are met.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next question. What is your vision for District 7's parks and recreation development? The citizens have been given empty promises since cityhood was finalized. Linda Pritchett.
Thank you for that question. I believe that if we look at how North Fulton looks, if we look at Alpharetta, Sandy Springs, Roswell, Milton, they have waterfalls, they have water parks, they have like canoes, streams, all kind of great stuff. And the reason why they have more than what we have, when we have the same, set of resources when it comes to finances, is because the people don't come to the table and insist, this is what I want. We know that people in the north that have higher incomes, that value their communities, not saying that we don't, they insist of their leaders when there's money being allocated in the budget, I want this and I'm not voting for you until I get that. We just had a budget that came out, and our budget for District 7 is like about $40,000 less when we haven't had representation for the last 7 months. So we have to, I've seen in the city a lot of outsourcing of money where we owe people money for things that should have been in-house functions. My vision is to allocate funds as well as public-private partnerships, because I'm tired of businesses making money hand over fist and just leaving us with nothing but dirty streets and a bunch of litter and trash. So I would like to see the businesses that we have invest in our parks, invest in recreation, and also look at grants that would help us do those things so that our children would have safe parks and we would have better recreation. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Please state specifically your plan to work with the police department to increase our slow response time. Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you for that question. It is important that we work with our police, and we have to come to the table, one and all, so that we can sit down and just map out the strategies that it's going to take for us to decrease the time response. We have a lot of things that have been going on around in our communities, especially in the District 7 area. So we're going to have to bring the police to the table, we're going to have to bring our community to the table, and we got to bring our churches to the table. The citizens' voice should be heard collectively. That is the only way that we're going to solve this problem. So we can't just put it all the onus on the police. We have a part to play in this as well. And our timing is like, if you see something, say something. There are measures in place right now with this city, called Click Fix and other things that goes with it. Use them, utilize them. Don't be afraid to call the police. Don't be afraid to call whomever you need to call. As a HOA president, when things happen in our community, I get those calls. And so I'm saying, bring the police to the table, bring the community to the table, and bring our faith-based community to the table as well so that we can solve these issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. Why are you running for city council seat in District 7? What experience or concerns do you have or have you had in the past that will help District 7? Mr. Clark.
That's a great question. I really want to make it clear that on Inauguration Day or when this person is sworn into the seat, this will be the first time that anybody on this table, on this council, will be sworn into council. It'll be their first time. So for me, I'm running for this seat because, as I stated before, I see a void in the citizen's voice being brought to the table. At the end of the day, there is not connectivity with what you want and what's happening on city council. You guys feel disconnected. That's a big issue. And the thing is, I've been a resident of South Fulton for over 20 years. I've sat and I've watched and I've seen what has happened. And I understand that everyone is disenfranchised and they feel disenfranchised because they feel like their voice isn't heard. I want to change that. I'm not a politician. I'm a citizen that's concerned, that's stepping up to the seat and stepping up to make sure that your issues come on that dais with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What is your plan for the operations of Wolf Creek and the challenges with Fulton County government? How would you handle it? Linda Pritchett.
Thank you again for that question. The situation with Wolf Creek, it's like we have a dynamic between the county and the city. The county is a little salty because we kind of annexed from them, or we were the leftover parts of what nobody wanted in Fulton County. So there's certain assets that through local option sales tax, through our tax base that we pay for, and we're fighting Fulton County to get control of those assets. Now, what it takes to be able to accomplish that is relationships. I have good relationships with many of the people that serve on Fulton County Board of Commissioners. It also takes being able to work with the people that are on the council. Currently, I have good relationships with the people on the council. But it also, you have to look at it from a fiscally responsible perspective. We had promoters that were spending a lot of money and basically that put Wolf Creek in a non-fiscally productive situation. So we have to look at different ways that we would use Wolf Creek. The city of East Point has this thing called Wednesday Wine Down, and they spend millions of dollars to put on those productions when we have a full amphitheater, and we should be able to do better than that. So that's what I would do about Wolf Creek, working together to make it a productive and a thriving location for entertainment for everyone in South Fulton.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next question. What is your economic development plan other than bringing warehouses to the community? Mr. Demand.
All right. That is probably the best question. I, of course, as I said earlier, have personally gotten together with neighbors and others to stop warehouse development because we know that really, truly speaking, warehouses are just a loss. First, it's a loss because they annihilate the wealth of our natural environment here that is a real wealth that we have here in our communities. And then secondly, we basically give away what could be a lucrative option. They're not paying enough in taxes, so warehouses are a loss. What we really need to do is look at areas that have a real commercial potential. I look at Old National Highway specifically, first and foremost, because of its proximity to Hartsfield International Airport, the busiest airport in the world, and we have a main thoroughfare that leads right up to it. And what I think would be a beautiful vision is that we start with a light rail or at least a rapid bus line there down the middle of Old National. Cut down on cars, get us off fossil fuels, out of cars, have that light rail line all the way to the airport and MARTA. That gives us connectivity to the city and the world. And all along Old Nat, we need to develop nodes of density with affordable housing, with a diversity of types of housing, and bring businesses and grow businesses there. So to me, I bring the farming and the food piece
Time.
into that. Thank you.
Time, thank you. Next question. What are your plans for the millage rate for the city of South Fulton? And I'm going to ask Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you once again for that question. The plans for the millage rate is to keep it the same. With the with the lost option sale tax being up for debate as to be suspended, that is going to decrease the city's budget. And one of the ways that you want to bring that budget back up and keep it to where it is people may want to raise the millage rate. But there's a cap on it right now. So I think that when we look at the budget, we should look at every aspect of it, every line item, and see where we can pull money from to replace that monies if we were to lose them. But as far as the millage rate goes, I'm not in favor of touching it or taking it any higher than what it is. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to ask the same question to Mr. Clark. What are your plans for the millage rate for the city of South Fulton?
Just as Mr. Reynolds just stated, those lost negotiations, they're really contentious right now. And at the end of the year, if the agreement isn't made, we are going to lose that part of the budget. So we have to be smart in the way that we look at the entire budget and where we can create funds and create monies not to increase that millage rate. Just as he said, there is a cap on that, and we have to understand that that cap is there. The only way that we can get to a point where we can either keep it the same or decrease it, we have to find those funds in the budget. There's about $30 million that will be lost from our budget in 2023 if that agreement isn't made. So that's what we have to do. We have to find those monies.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to ask this question of all the candidates. Linda Pritchett, this is a good question. Millage rate, because it talks about the taxes.
Well, what I find interesting about that discussion with the millage rate is just the fact that if they don't approve it, then where's that money going to go? It's not like the money is not going to be the local option sales tax dollars are money that comes in that's spent within the city. So when people from anywhere, people from the airport come to South Fulton, people come to eat in South Fulton, they go shop at Walmart, they, wherever they shop in South Fulton, that portion of the sales tax, it comes to us. Where is that money going to go? That's the better question, And so I think that we have to look at the millage rate is not going to go up per se, in trying to adjust, for a shortfall. But the problem is we have to look at our spending. As someone who worked in the city, I can say that people have great salaries, great benefits package. Our police department, I will say, has spent a lot of money on things like tanks, on things like new vehicles, things that I'm not saying are unnecessary, but things, in addition to now we're going to spend $20,000 a month on a police headquarters that's going to be in the city of Atlanta, and how does that benefit us? So we have to look at our spending, and we have to be a little bit more responsible on how we spend our money, so if we have to replace that shortfall.
Time. Thank you. Thank you very much. And Mr. Demand, same question.
Yes. The millage rate most specifically is going to impact us. We have, of course, revenues from various sources that the city gets its budget from. 48% of our revenue actually comes from residential property taxes. So we as residents are actually carrying the lion's share of the city's budget. We produce that ourselves just by living in our houses, which is not really something to be proud of. Our tax base needs to come from other things. We certainly are going to grow as a city. We know that. We're projected to grow and change demographically as younger people move to our city, and that's going to be based on the kind of opportunities we can present. But if we keep the millage rate low, which we have wisely chosen to do this year, freezing it, that means that we as citizens and residents are going to pay a reasonable amount in property taxes. And I think we should be looking to develop the commercial potential here in the city so that we're not putting the tax burden on the residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So next I have a question for Mr. Clark. And says your experience on tech seems to be shifted towards the technology end. And it says the only solution I've heard from you thus far is a technology solution. Although it's good, what are your plans beyond technology, and voice your concerns electronically? How can you help turn that into some good for District 7?
Okay. Again, another one of my projects is bringing the farmers market into the city of South Fulton in District 7. So with that, that's a sustainable farm that I'm thinking about. And with that farmers market, basically what we're going to do is we're going to have local food that is grown here. That food is going to be grown here, that food is going to be sold here, and you're going to be able to buy that food at a discount because you're a resident of District 7. So that's another one of my projects that I'm bringing. We're going to have technology embedded in that because we're going to make sure that we have the best food and the best grown food using a closed loop system. And with that, what I also want to do is be able to present a discount card because you are a resident of South Fulton. That card will be based upon technology so that you can have that food again at a discount. When I think about technology across the board, basically what we want to do is have South Fulton to be innovative. And what I want to do is I have a project called Simply the Best. So basically all the other people that I know that are in technology that have been pillars in the technology community, vice presidents, presidents of other technology companies, they have agreed to mentor our young children. They have agreed to virtually mentor those children so that they can get involved in STEM, they can get involved in tech, they can get involved in any one of those fields at an early age. So that's another thing that we want to do, and I also want to partner with the warehouses here, such as Amazon on the AWS side, to provide education credits to our citizens so that they can raise the level.
Thank you. Next question. In light of the economic stature, the remnants of the world pandemic, and the rising cost of housing and food inflation, what are your plans to get the homeless in a home, jobs for the jobless, and growth in a business? And by the way, that question did come from the audience, so I'm going to point that to Mr. DeMann.
Awesome, great question. The housing is part of one of the biggest issues in our city. Everybody wants to know about development. Everybody's got opinions about development. And housing is, of course, one of our critical needs. We have people who are unhoused in many different ways, who are homeless in many different ways, who stay with somebody one day in the week and stay with somebody else later in the week, who don't have a permanent place to live. We have people who live in places like Camelot where their living conditions are subhuman. And we have all kinds of housing here of great diversity. I would like to see even more diversity of safe, healthy, well-inspected, fire-proof housing that needs to be available at all economic levels because a roof over your head is one of the most important things you can possibly have. You got a place to live you can count on. If that feels stable to you, the rest of your life can fall into place. So to me, I want to see our economic development come along with our housing development, and I want to see us make it dense where it makes sense. Other people want to live in larger houses, that's cool. But I would really focus on affordable housing in places where we can have that, and generally providing services to help people get back on their feet after the pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So I have another question. Police, fire, EMS, 911 are all part of public safety departments. Communities want to feel safe, and how to make sure that what is your plan to make sure that the public is safe and funded? I want to point that question to Mr. Reynolds.
You know, there's a lot being said about police, fire, EMS, and so forth, and no doubt we have some issues there. But, you know, we have to make sure that funding is there so that they are able to do their jobs. That comes with a lot of training. That comes with a lot of apprenticeship programs so that we can bring in new faces, new vibes. And we have to make sure that people care about what they're doing. That's number one. If you have a heart for the people, then that means that in these situations, you are going to do the best that you can do so that people can get the services that they need. And so that we are going to have to support our safety programs, police, fire, EMS. Give them the tools that they need to better do their job. You talk about technology. There's a lot of technology out there that can help them enhance their ability to do their jobs. We need to look at those types of things. So again, we have to make sure that the tools are provided for these areas so that we can feel safe and be safe when they're called upon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question. What experiences do you have with handling and managing budgets? Ms. Pritchett.
Well, my experience with handling budgets when I worked for the city, I worked with our district budget. Every council member has a budget of $65,000, which they spend on either putting on events and doing education, like continuing education, going to conferences, different things. So I have an experience in handling that. I work for a law firm that I helped to start and organize. And our budgets are basically derived from the settlements that we receive from injured workers and workers' compensation. And the budgets that I manage are budgets that are well over 7 figures in disbursements and managing the care of those people that are injured. Also, when I worked at the state, I worked developing budgets to be allocated in different areas. There are appropriations when you look at the state budget and where you want to allocate money for either nonprofit organizations or different things in your district. And so I've worked with my state senator and also with state representatives to develop those type of budgets. So I have experience in handling and working with budgets, and I would use that experience as a city council member when elected.
Thank you. So we have a question from one of our guests online. So I'm going to ask that question. How do the members get Chief Meadows to interact more with the citizens and get more police on Oakley Industrial during school hours at dismissal? And I'm going to ask that question of Mr. DeMann.
All right. Just down the road here, earlier this year, there was a fatal accident, and you can see the memorial there on the side of the road. I have, in the time that I've been here, I've worked on a community garden at Oakley Elementary. I've walked and driven up and down Oakley. To me, it seems like an absolute senseless fact that that street does not have a street light. We need at least one traffic light on Oakley, and I think it would be great to have it right there where the elementary school is, or at the top of the hill at least. Definitely during school letting out hours, we sometimes have an officer there to help direct traffic, but not always. Generally, getting the police to provide better service, I think, is just a long-term project of the city. With a budget of over $20 million, they should be able to do a good job of that. So I think we have to ask and we have to insist, and I'll be doing that for you when I'm on council. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go back to one of my questions about budget. What experience do you have in handling and managing budgets? Mr. Clark.
Yes, I have extensive experience in managing budgets. I've created 2 startups before, and I had to manage the budget entirely for those startups. So with that, bringing that experience to the council will be very important. As it was stated earlier, our budget is underwhelming for District 7 because we haven't had a representative in District 7 since March. So with that, the other budgets for the other districts, they're higher than the one in District 7. And what I want to do is to be able to increase our budget, use it efficiently, so that the citizens can definitely benefit from the money management that we have. Another thing that I want to do is to be able to increase the amount of grants for the district. Just as we stated before, we need a park in District 7. And we need to be able to have funds available for that park in District 7. The Parks and Recreation Department, they've slated funds to be able to connect the neighborhoods together, But at the end of the day, we still need something for our seniors as well as our young people. They do not have anything there, and we need to fight for the money to be able to get there. So that's another thing that I'll do. So I'll be able to use our budget efficiently, and I'll fight for additional funds so that we have enough to be able to cover all of our needs in District 7.
Mr. Reynolds, same question. How would you handle the budget? What experience do you have?
Thank you so much for that question. As a director of engineering for over 20 years of a Crestview Management Company, which I am right currently, director of operations for SR Management Financial Group, I've had the opportunity of creating budgets, managing budgets, well over millions of dollars and so forth, and still doing that today. So budget is not new to me. I understand the value of a dollar. I understand money, how it should be spent, where it should be spent. So I have a vast experience and a vast knowledge in budgeting process, overseeing many projects, making sure they're coming in on time. So it is so important that we look at every line item of the budget. It is so important that we understand where that money is going. It is so important that we tell the citizens where their money is being spent and how it's being used. I mean, that is no secret. Everyone wants to know, even yourself, when you out there paying your mortgage and so forth, you sit down and you have a line item on what you can do per month and so forth. But again, my experiences in budgeting and finances is well over 30 years. So thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Demand, same question.
All right. I, too, like Alvin, have worked in construction trades, building trades, mostly for other people. But in 2020, just in time for the pandemic, I had launched my own contracting business. And it was really, if you know anyone who works in the business, or if you do, it was a really gangbusters time for working on other people's houses. And that was really interesting because at the same time we were looking at an economic hardship that was bearing down on all of us. Some people had money set aside to do that project that they always wanted to renovate their kitchen or whatever, and some people had to fix some stuff that just needed to get fixed. And so for me, when I think about balancing a budget, I think about balancing somebody else's budget in particular, because sometimes you get that sweet job where somebody wants to spend $60,000 on their kitchen. And that's a lot of fun to spend $60,000 of somebody's money. But a lot of times people don't have a lot of money to fix the thing that they really need fixed. And so, with even a small number of employees, you have to recognize that labor is one of the highest costs that you'll pay when you build something, and that material costs were going up through the roof because of the pandemic shortages. And so my experience is actually trying to help people save money during a time of scarcity and hardship.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So next question. This one's come from our online audience. It says, how can we stop the other council members from constantly undermining the mayor? And Ms. Pritchett.
Well, I will say that when I served as vice president in my homeowners association, I was the one that had the point of contention with the other members because they wanted to fine people for real petty things and not let the ladies auxiliary use the clubhouse without charging them, just doing all these different things to exert their power over the people and let them know they're in charge. And I was the one that was always advocating for the people. So I feel that I do not believe that the council should be disrespectful towards the mayor. I believe the mayor should also be respectful to the council. I believe that Robert's Rules of Order shall prevail, that everyone on the council at this point should have enough training to know parliamentary procedure. And a lot of the things that I see, a lot of the stunts that I see pulled go against the rules of parliamentary procedure. I'm not trying to participate in any of that type of tomfoolery because this is not a reality show. This is not Housewives of Atlanta. This is a city, and you have to conduct yourself as a leader or somebody who's interested in serving people, not just being seen, not posturing, and just being disrespectful to someone because they don't like them. So I personally get along with the mayor, and I would always find a way to encourage good behavior amongst my colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you for that response. So I have another question from our online audience, and this is for Mr. Demand. How did you work with Union City Council and the mayor to stop warehouses?
I did not work with Union City Council. I worked with our City South Fulton Council, and definitely with the mayor just as kind of backup. But we're talking about grassroots effort here. One of my neighbors, Paul, is in the audience, and he's been with me the whole way on that. He lives just down the road here too. The warehouse site in particular that I've had to protect numerous times is just about half a mile down the road here on 92. And really, my approach to politics is based in the grassroots and is based in organizing people. I look to city government for help in bringing that about, because when you're going up against somebody who's got, they can hire high dollar lawyers, you need help. And in 2018, I went to South Fulton City Council for the first time and pled my case to stop this warehouse. They listened to me. Khalid was on council at the time, and the Gang of Four voted to stop that project. And ever since, I've also gone up to the Planning Commission as well when Mr. Reynolds was on the Planning Commission, and we did the same thing, just speak your truth, you make your case, and if enough people get together to do it, you can do what you need to do. Always remember that. Organize with your neighbors, organize with your community, because our power flows from the bottom up. Thank you.
Thank you. So I have a question from our audience, and the question is, how do we attract better quality restaurants instead of all the fast food restaurants that we have, or similar to the ones that we have on Highway 74? I'm going to pose that to Mr. Reynolds.
Once again, thank you for that question. We just simply have to get involved and ask. I believe that if we want certain types of restaurants in our area, we need to seek out those types of businesses and bring them to the table. Let's see why they don't want to come or why they will come. It's just that simple. I don't think that there's been enough of that involvement with these businesses to see exactly what's keeping them from coming in our area. And if they don't want to come, let's make our own. We can do it ourselves. Who says that we can't have quality restaurants? We can do it. But again, you just have to have people come to the table, sit down and have robust conversations as to what you want. What do you want to see in your city? I often say that when running for this seat, this is not an opportunity for me, but this is an opportunity for us to bring about the much needed change that's needed here. And with that being said, that's what we have to do in balanced development, as I so much talk about. Things has to make sense. And so, yes, bring those types of entities to the table so that we can have robust conversations as to why or what and when and how we want this thing to happen. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going to go back to an online question that we had. How can we stop other council members from constantly undermining the mayor? Mr. Clark.
Yes. As I stated before, and I'll state here again today, I am looking to bring about change without being disruptive. At the end of the day, there has been a lot of bickering going back and forth amongst council members as well as the mayor. And the thing is, I don't want to be a source of embarrassment when we get on city council. To me, I think that we need to be collaborative in our approach. There are things that we need to get done, and we need to focus on solutions. Whether we like somebody or not, that shouldn't be important. The work of the people is what's important, and that's what we need to focus on. And I know for sure that that's what I'm going to focus on, as well as bringing the voice of the people back to the council. At the end of the day, like I said, people, they cannot like each other, but they have to get along in order to bring about solutions. That's what I'm about. I'm about solutions, and I want to hit the ground running with those when you vote me into office. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question. Police, fire, EMS, 911, all a part of public safety. Communities want to feel safe. So how will you make sure that the public safety is fully funded? Mr. DeMann.
Right now, police and fire actually get right about the same amount of money, $20 million in the projected fiscal year 2023 budget that's coming, just starting right now. Generally, I would say that our city has done a good job of providing both of those departments with a lot of funding. Fire is more expensive than you might think unless you know something about the nuts and bolts of running a fire department. That equipment is very expensive and costly to maintain. The training is extensive and rigorous and is expensive to receive. Also, you need buildings to house those fire stations. Buildings are expensive to maintain. And so these are really big budgets. These are the two biggest, they have the most funding of our departments. And I just think that we have to recognize what the real needs are. We had a terrible, tragic fire earlier this week in District 7 over in the Chippewa neighborhood there east of Old Nat. And, I just think that whatever we need to do to, on the front end, use, and the fire department knows this, and they have a program to go into communities and help prevent fires before they start because they're preventable. But yeah, let's keep giving money to our fire department. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question, and this one is for Linda Pritchett. This has come from our audience. You have a multitude of experience within the corporate world as well as the city of South Fulton. What do you see that needs to be done, and what direct effect will you have if elected to these fixes?
Well, what needs to be done for District 7, District 7 needs to get cleaned up. I believe that Old National is a problem. It's a significant problem. It's aesthetically, it doesn't look good. It's not as well lit as it needs to be. I think on Oakley Industrial, it is not well lit. I think on 138 Jonesboro Road, it is not well lit. It is not safe at all. We need, right now they've done an LCI, Living Centers Initiative study, where they spent $150,000 trying to figure out recommendations for what they want to do for economic development on Old National. If they had given me $10, I would have told them real quick, you need to clean this up. I mean, it's just very simple to me. I think we need to make sure that businesses that come into our city are no longer allowed to just make money off of us. They are going to have to contribute. They're going to have to keep their lots clean. We're going to also have to have things for our children to do. Many of our communities don't have the amenities that were promised. So we're going to have to get tougher on builders, on developers, and make sure that they're investing in our city before they come in here expecting us to spend our money with them. So I would use my experience in doing what I think is just the hard work of just cleaning things up to make things look better, make things safer, so that businesses will want to come here. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question from our audience, circling back on this one. In light of the economic stature, the remnants of the world pandemic, and the rising cost of housing and food inflation, what are your plans to get the homeless in a home, jobs to the jobless, and growth in business? Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you again. I believe we need to do, and I believe we need to look at a redevelopment plan. There are some things that stands right now in our community across this city that we can actually redevelop and have those homes that you're speaking of. I think that affordable housing is something that needs to be strategically done. I believe that we have to look at the areas where it will benefit this city as a whole. Bringing jobs in, I am a proponent of economic development where commercial development is key. I think that right now our city has too much residential development, and we look at it as being a planning and zoning commissioner. That seems to be like the only development that will come into the District 7 area, and as well as across this city. So we need to start thinking about what types of commercial-based businesses we can develop in our city that will bring jobs. But we don't want just any type of businesses coming in here. We want to be strategic about what we want to see and what will be beneficial for our city. So again, balanced development in the area of housing, putting things where it makes sense, and bringing in more commercial development so that we can increase our jobs. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to start to round this up. I know it's top of the hour. And Pastor, I hope you don't mind if I take this until the bottom of the hour. So give me another 30 minutes here. I think we have some good dialogue, and we're talking about experiences and proposals and things like that, and what the candidates will do, and having a good cross-section of what the needs are of the community. So I'm going to ask a question that came from our audience here. Will there be a traffic light installed at Plantation and Oakley Industrial? And there's so many accidents there. Mr. Clark.
Yes, we will definitely petition for that traffic light to be there. Really, what we want to do is position for traffic calming devices. We understand that on 138, it's almost like a speedway between Union City going up to Old National. If we have traffic calming devices that find super speeders so that we generate revenue and start to hit their pockets, they will definitely slow down. We definitely need speed bumps in our communities. Each HOA and each community needs to have speed bumps in them, all of those that want them. So, and what we need to do is we need to be efficient in that process. We have the money to do it. Every council meeting, we should be approving a project in every district to be able to have traffic calming devices there and speed bumps there for everybody that wants them. So for the specific question for the light, yes, we will definitely petition for that light, and we'll bring all the relevant people together, such as GDOT, as well as the city council, and petition them to say, hey, we need to approve that project as soon as possible. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question. What is your economic development plan other than bringing warehouses to the community? Mr. Reynolds.
Once again, commercial development. I believe that we need to bring in family-oriented businesses, something that we all can take advantage of. I believe that we need to bring in those types of businesses that will spur jobs, technology. What about professional businesses like law offices, financial institutions? We had one medical facility come in on Old National. We need to increase that, as we know that our healthcare system, some of them are closing. So we need to start looking into that realm. I'd like to take a more professional approach to see those types of businesses come into our area. I think that will spur a lot of educational growth as well, and so that we can give our kids a footstool as to make good career choices. Proponent of apprenticeship programs. I'd like to see a facility to come in to where we can do apprenticeship programs. It's all types of things that we can do out here so that we can give opportunity to our kids. We also need facilities where our seniors can take advantage of, where they can go learn how to operate some of this technology that is coming at us real fast. So again, better commercial development, and let's look in the other areas of family-oriented businesses and so forth to spur job growth. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question. What is your plan for the operations of Wolf Creek and the challenges with Fulton County government? How would you handle it? Mr. Clark.
Definitely, Wolf Creek should be a beacon of light for all entertainment, honestly. I mean, really. The fact that we haven't, it's been languishing for so long. The renovations that need to happen there, that's one thing. Secondly, there are a lot of artists, homegrown artists, that are from this area that want to perform at home. So when we think about it, we have to look at it from a couple of different levels. We have to bring it up to code. We have to bring it up to standard. That's one, okay? The budget is there to do that. Finally, yes, let's go ahead and execute and not delay that process. Second of all, we need to get with all promoters that are in the area and be able to promote that concerts are coming, different types of events are coming, and that's from all genres. There's definitely an economic benefit that can happen from us opening up different genres to come. We can have jazz in Wolf Creek. We can have hip-hop in Wolf Creek. We can have Afrobeat in Wolf Creek. Everything that our taste, our eclectic taste can handle, we should be able to invite to Wolf Creek so that it's an economic center, so that there's a concert in there every week. Honestly, we should be able to take advantage because we've waited for so long for a viable place where our citizens could go to and have fun. Wolf Creek is a wonderful facility. We just need to take advantage of it. That's why you need to vote for me.
Thank you. Next question. This is from our audience. From my point of view, defunding the police, firefighters, etc., is very vague. Do council members have input on what facets are defunded? Mr. DeMann.
Now, that's a substantive question. I thought the first time I heard defund the police that it was one of the most leaden and blunt statements about something that was intended to be really powerful, but kind of, I mean, people rallied around it, but look where it's gone. Nobody's talking about defund the police anymore. I would definitely never defund the fire department. I would actually more robustly fund the fire department. Like I said, it's expensive to run all that equipment. In terms of the police, I mean, I think you know what we really need is a citizen review board for the police in our city. This would be an oversight based on community that would give us the ability to pick apart what the police are doing with our money, with the funding that we give them, and with their actions most especially. So, you know, you look at what the police are doing with your money and you figure out what is valuable and important to you and what is not, and what needs to stop if it needs to stop. So I think that really begins with a robust citizen oversight of the police, and definitely not defunding the fire department. Public safety just generally needs to be funded for the good of us all. Like I said earlier, I fought and won speed bumps paid for by the city. We have a $1 million pedestrian safety fund in the city. And we need to think about public safety in terms of things that we can build and put in place for people, not just people in uniforms. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question from the audience. What will you be doing for the youth outside of, it says outside of what they do, what they get out of school to keep them off the streets? Something like camps, trade programs, etc. Linda Pritchett.
Probably about 6 or 7 years ago, I became a mentor mom in this group called Next Level Boys Academy. And it's a mentorship program for black boys to make sure that they don't get in trouble. But it's also a pretrial diversion or a diversion program for young men that do get in trouble to help them deal with the fact that they don't have fathers at home or being raised by single moms or, have food insecurity, different type of things, peer pressure, gangs, all that type of stuff. So what we need in our communities is we need to have activities for these young children so that they can stay children. We were talking earlier today in a community where it was a community designed for seniors, but they let everybody else come in, and some of the seniors complain about the boys playing basketball and stuff like that. But when children want to play, you got to let them play, because when they get grown, they do destructive things if you don't let them have that playtime. So I would like to see more money allocated to parks, more programs that are already being funded by our county through nonprofits, where children can benefit from computer programs, arts, crafts, all kind of recreational programs that can be put into like Creole Park and many of the places that we already have. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm going back to another question from our audience. It says, why are you running for City Council for District 7? What experience and concerns have you had in the past that will help District 7? Mr. Reynolds.
Like I stated earlier in my opening statement, I've been an advocate in the District 7 area for well over 20 years. And as homeowner association president, it was funny when I would come home from work, my wife would call me and say, you got like 20 kids out here in your driveway just waiting on you. I used to take these kids and just put them on the back of my truck. We would go to the park and just have fun, teach them basketball skills and so forth, but use that opportunity to mentor to them. And so, again, we're talking about bringing in our faith base. That is so key when you start to talk about how we're going to address the issues with our young and our youth. And so, again, setting up all types of programs. I think that our churches are so important and viable that we need to utilize, if they allow their facilities, to bring in those types of programs that have been spoken of, technology, apprenticeship training, and so forth. so that we can just collectively come together. We have to agree to disagree. We have to hold each other accountable, and so that we must come together and just solve the problems that we're faced with today. Thank you.
Thank you. So next question. Startups and nonprofit businesses. How do you plan to support them? Linda Pritchett.
That's a great question. I happen to be, for the last 6 years, I've been a grant evaluator for Fulton County Community Services Program. So I evaluate the grants for like the food bank, all type of different services and nonprofits that are given about $5 million from the county to provide services to people, to underserved communities, underprivileged peoples with like unique needs. And this is not, this does not include the churches in our community. So what I would do with nonprofit organizations is just make sure that people know that these services are available to you. For example, Meals on Wheels, a lot of people don't know that for senior people, people 65 and up, they will install like a toilet, they'll do your roof, they'll put an access ramp if you're disabled. There are a lot of nonprofit organizations that provide services and people have no clue that they're available to them. So one thing that I do now, and I've been doing for the last 10 years, is publishing the community newsletter where I let people know about different things that are going on, whether it be related to voting or community events. But as a city council person, I'll make sure that people know about these different services that are available to them from nonprofits.
Thank you. Another question. We always talk about the first day on the job and serving as a city council member. What is the second task that you will handle if you're elected? Mr. Clark.
The second task that I would like to handle when elected is putting speed bumps inside of Oakley Township. That's the second thing I want to. That's the second thing I want to do as city council. Again, as I stated before, I think that on every meeting there should be a list of communities that get projects approved for those speed bumps, because the money is already there. We shouldn't wait. We shouldn't delay that. And that's just the second thing that I'll do when I'm in council. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go to, got another question here. I'm going to go back to startups of nonprofit businesses. How do you plan to help? Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you for that question. Right now, we started up a initiative to where we do a back-to-school drive for teachers. And so we have got good support coming from certain organizations. And we want to keep that going. And so starting up with nonprofits, getting these nonprofits to come together and let's work together so that we can find initiatives and find programs for our seniors, our young adults, our youth. We're in the schools diligently. We believe that if we catch these kids early on, then we can prevent some of the things that they'll be involved in later on. But again, it will take some nonprofits being honest with what they're doing. You have to make sure they have to be held accountable. We want to make sure that their books are in order. And so these are the things that we want to make sure that we bring to the table. You can't do anything alone. You can't do anything by yourself. You got to make sure that we're all working collectively and we all have one mindset and one goal, and that's for a better South Fulton and hopefully for a better people. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to, this is going to be my last question because I want to make sure that we have balance, and this will give each of the candidates a fair amount of questions. So another question says, I've lived in the Oakley industrial area, and we have there's an increase in crime in the area in the city of South Fulton. So I wanted to ask the candidates if they were aware, and what would they do and plan to do about the crime that affects the community's homeowners, the property value of the homeowners. And Linda Pritchett, that question is for you.
Well, thank you, and I am aware. I am aware that in the Oakley Township subdivision, it's very dark. I'm not saying that it's not safe because it seems like a pretty nice and quiet community, But unfortunately, there's some apartments just a little bit down the road that a lot of crazy stuff happens, where there are a lot of shootings, people have gotten killed. And one of the problems that I see is, number one, that there's an issue with lighting. But number two, I feel that the police use their discretion and just feel like not being bothered and going over there. In that same subdivision, the current president of the Homeowners Association shot somebody, shot another resident, you know? So there are there's a lot of stuff going on over there where the police don't want to go to that subdivision because they know they have to contend with that person. So I don't think that the police should have discretion as to pick and choose, well, I'll get over there sooner or later. We've been on events on Old National recently, at Old National Day, where it was about 30 officers just bothering people that were having a good time, where they should have been answering calls all throughout the city and primarily in District 7. So that's something that we have to change the culture and make these officers do the job of protecting and serving that they've sworn in to do.
Thank you very much. So, as I previously mentioned, I just wanted to make sure that each of the candidates had a fair opportunity to ask questions, to share their experiences, to share their platform about what it is they plan to do, how they would handle certain situations. And so with that, I want to say that I had given each of the candidates, not all of the same questions, but each of the candidates has had 9 questions. And I think that's a fair assessment of where they stand on certain issues. And I think it gives you a good assessment of where they are. So with that, I'd like to wrap it up and bring this to a close. I'm going to give each of the candidates 2 minutes for a closing statement. And again, we're going to go in alphabetical order by last name. So we're going to start with Mr. Clark. A closing statement, please.
Okay. Again, my name is Mario Clark, and I just want to reiterate that my commitment to this community started well before I decided to offer myself for service. What I want to do is serve District 7 and not use it as a political stepping stone. I definitely won't be a source of embarrassment to bickering within the council. Again, my goal is to affect change without being disruptive by working collaboratively with the other people in the council as well as the mayor. I'm a team player, and I'm a consensus builder by nature and profession, and that's what makes me an ideal candidate to serve the district as well as the city. I'm the first choice on the ballot and your best option. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Next, I'm going to go Mr. DeMant.
All right. Well, I'll start by reiterating that I have been a proven community activist and organizer. You saw my speed bumps. I got the first set of speed bumps paid for by the city. Everybody deserves these safety features, and I can get them for you. Secondly, I'm going to go back to the development projects that we all know development's a huge issue. Nobody likes the warehouses. I've stopped warehouse developments, not only here, but I've also rallied with citizens in other areas of the city to stop unwanted projects. I'm about economic development, but I think that we need to have a plan and a vision for economic development that's outside the box and steps out of the traditional reliance on fossil fuels, reliance on corporate money, and home grow our businesses here and home grow our food here. I want to see intelligent development because that's what we deserve. I want to see it be dense where it makes sense, but we're going to leave lots of green space in our communities and save the trees that we know are vital to our existence on this planet. I'm about public safety. I think our police have done a pretty darn good job of bringing crime down. They've actually brought crime down consistently over the last 3 years. But I'm always going to put my foot down when it comes to giving them lots of money for things that they maybe don't need. And I do firmly believe in citizen oversight of all of their activities. I'm about government transparency in general. You need to know, and you deserve to know, what the government is doing with every cent of your money. And you also need access to government and having your voice heard. We're going to restore your right to come and speak your mind in city council meetings. And I'd also like to further our cultural development. I've got a lot of ideas there. I think we have great potential in this city, and I would love to see us grow positively. I'm going to bring that with me, and I'll do it for you. Thank you.
Thank you. And next, Ms. Pritchett.
Thanks again for having us here this evening and listening to how we answer your questions and our plans for the community. We talked a lot about different things that we want to see done in the community. And I like to say that throughout the years, people have been able to always count on me to make sure that things get done. Recently, there was an issue with fatalities on 138 and Bethsaida Road. I had a press conference where the news came out, and we brought a lot of awareness to the issue, and people on my team worked really hard to press DOT and Public Works for a light. We found out last week that we have been approved for a light there. So I believe that the type of involvement that I have in the community produces strong results. I've also been very consistent. I've always been someone that has organized town hall meetings and events that all of the my opponents here have attended my events. I don't have to wait for someone to tell me what to do, but I know when there's a need and the best course of action to take. I've also been informing people about what's going on, whether it be politically, whether it be community-wise, and I will do that as the District 7 City Council person. So I'd like to ask you to consider to vote for me because I have the experience, I have the fortitude, and I can get the job done. So vote for Linda Pritchett. You can vote actually all week for the next 2 weeks, and then next Saturday you can also early vote. And my website again is voteforlinda.com, and that's vote4linda.com, where I also have a list of all the early voting locations that you can go to. Thanks again for your time and your attention.
Thank you. And Mr. Reynolds.
Thank you so much. I'd just like to thank Free Spirit Ministries and you, Ms. Adams, for hosting this event on tonight. Again, like I said, Alvin Reynolds, and I am probably the only candidate that's ready to start day one to start serving this city as a city councilman. I understand where we came from, and I understand where we are now. You understand that I have the qualities, I have the qualifications, I understand budgeting, I understand development, I understand that we have to do a better job of communicating with one another. We have to agree to disagree. We have to hold each other accountable. These are all of the traits that we need to do in order to work together. This city has some work to do. This city needs a lot of rebuilding. I am one candidate that can come in and get that job done. We can't move forward until we clean our house up, until we clean our issues up. And I am the one candidate that can get that done. So respecting each and one that's sitting on that council, mayor, and as well as the staff in this city. I have worked with these people for a long time. A lot of projects that people talk about that they've been a part of, I've been a part of them from day one. I just did not come to zoning meetings and stop warehouses and gas stations and liquor stores. Yesterday, I've been doing this for over 20 years. So I have a vast knowledge of experience and ready to hit the ground running. Once again, I'm Alvin Reynolds, candidate for the City of South Fulton, District Seat number 7, and I am asking for your support. Thank you.
Thank you to all the candidates for coming out and participating. So to my listening audience, the viewing audience, but to my audience here in person, I just want to say you just heard from 4 qualified candidates that are vying to run for the same seat. That's City Council member for District 7 in the City of South Fulton. And the council member will begin serving January 1 of 2023, and their seat will run through December 31st of 2026. Seems like a long way away, but it's not. You get a 4-year term. Their future lies in your hands. And as a constituent and a voter and a resident of the City of South Fulton, you owe it to yourself to vote for the most qualified person. Qualified person. So I'm going to leave you with this. Here's some important dates. October 17th, which is this Monday, was the first day of early voting. November 4th is the last day of early voting. And Ms. Pritchett stated, as she stated, we do have 2 Saturday voting dates, and that is October 22nd, which was today, and October 29th. Those are the 2 Saturday voting dates. Anyone that wants to submit an absentee ballot, it has to be submitted. Your application must be submitted by the 28th of October. And you know a lot has changed around Senate Bill 202 about dropping off absentee ballots and things like that. So early voting, we're asking people to early vote if you don't want to vote on Election Day. Remember, the general election is on Election Day, so if you don't vote prior to that, you have to go to your precinct on Election Day. So with that, I say you owe it to not only yourself, your family, your friends, your neighbors, to get out and vote if you're a qualified voter. And that will help these individuals as they run for this seat to make decisions to govern this city of South Fulton. And so, in closing, I say, know before you go. Be an educated and informed voter. Know who is on your ballot. Know what is on your ballot. You have amendments. You got 2 amendments, 2 state amendments, and 2 referendums. And depending on where you live, there's one last question on that ballot. But understand what is on your ballot. Know when to vote. I just shared those dates with you. And know where to vote. And with that, I say go to the Secretary of State's website, my voter page, my MVP. That's sos.myvp.com, or we'll get that to you. There you go. Thank you, Mayor. But pull a sample ballot. Pull a sample ballot. You can also pull your precinct card. Some precincts have shifted and changed. If your last name has changed, or if your address has changed since the last time you voted, pull your precinct card. But be that informed voter. But more so than anything, exercise your right to vote. Now I'm going to turn the forum back over to the pastor here and thank him and the congregation so much for having us out this evening and giving us an opportunity to share with the community. Thank you.
Thank you once again for joining us for tonight's debate. I want to thank each and every one of these candidates. Give them a big hand for coming out and their willingness to serve. To our moderator, Miss Kathy Adams, wonderful job tonight. Please, please, please don't forget, you vote for them so that they can vote for you. I'm going to say that one more time. You vote for them so that when they get in, they can vote for you. Just before we leave, I want to acknowledge and recognize the mayor. Please stand. Mayor Khalid, come, sir. Always good to have you with us.
Would you all give these candidates one more round of applause? And Pastor Del Foster and Free Spirit Ministries. These 4 people, if you've watched our city council meetings, you know that they can be very intense. And these 4 folks are volunteering to come and be a part of that for very little money. So that I think that is incredible. I want to thank all of you. I've worked with many of you over the years, and I look forward to working with all of you, regardless of who wins, because I know that you all love this community. I want you all to give yourselves a hand. Let's give this audience a hand, and the people watching at home, because you could be doing lots of other things on your Saturday night. This is going to be online on Free Spirit Ministries YouTube channel. It's going to be reposted. So if you know someone who wasn't able to make it tonight, make sure they watch it, as Ms. Adams said. Make sure that they are informed voters. This is a very important decision. I'm going to make one quick correction. This is an election to fill a term. So these people that you elect whoever wins this seat will be in the seat for 1 year, and then there'll be another election. So you all in District 7 actually have a unique opportunity. You get to give these folks a trial run, see how you like them, and then in a year, you get to vote again. So that's just really important. So be on the cutting edge of that information. Make sure that you get one of these cards. It has some frequently call numbers for the city. And again, thank you all so much for coming out and being a part of this process. South Fulton forever.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us. Please hang around if you'd like and ask questions of these candidates. Otherwise, we will see you real soon. God bless.